And not only that, but a lot of these games now support, and the term's escaping me, but they're basically, like mechanical fleshlights and things. So you can be playing these games, and the games actually have work with the SDK for these mechanical devices.
Isn't that just gonna like what VR porn's gonna?
Yeah, they're called peripherals. It'll just in the future, it'll just be like getting a keyboard.
Well, hello there, Mr. Gary.
Hi there, Blair.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Well, we are back for season 2 of the Phat Games podcast. Imagine that. We're actually crazy and stupid enough to do this again.
Yeah, we are definitely crazy and stupid to do this again, but whatever. We're doing it.
Yep, and we actually wanted to talk a little bit about Megfest before we get started.
Yes, Megfest was fun.
Yeah, Gary and I were there. We got off the wait list and we set up first weekend in January, it was, I think, and nobody got COVID, so that's great. It was the first time I think we've done anything like I haven't really gone on a real vacation during COVID. I found that weekend very rejuvenating and very positive with respect to the game. The response to the game was very, I would say, overwhelming. A lot of positive feedback.
Yeah, we didn't have any technical problems at all.
Oh yeah, we had tons of technical problems and tons of bugs were found too. That part wasn't so great, but overall, everyone was sort of forgiving about the technical issues, and they just really sat there and played through a large chunk of the game. That one guy played through the entire thing. Was out there for like almost 2 hours. That's incredible. That was an incredible feeling to see that. And the response to the jokes in the game were really heartwarming too, because that it was very validating.
Too bad that you didn't get to see that one guy that was he was really laughing at everything.
Yeah,
especially
I wish
the
I was
fisting
there.
joke that you made in the menus. he almost lost it.
Yeah, that fisting joke actually is pretty lined up with what we're going to be talking about this podcast.
Yeah, lined up. Too bad we didn't talk about fisting in the podcast.
We are now.
Oh yeah, okay. Episode 2.
Maybe. Jeez.
Wave the fist.
I don't know what to make of this episode. So in this episode, we brought back Red Vonix to talk about porno games. He worked on them for a little while in his career, with the theme of trying to sort of find your audience. We had tried to have a good understanding of who plays these games, who creates these games, and what kind of overlap there is with indie and AAA game development. And my God, we went off rails so many times, but it was a fun ride. So I hope everyone who's listening enjoys this episode. It's fun to be back. And please be sure to hit like and subscribe to stick around. Welcome back, Red. Thanks for joining us. How you been?
Me? I've been busy. It's been really busy. Honestly, getting games going, getting a life going, having cats. Too many cats. Like one's about to join me here.
Oh, that's good. It's always nice to have a cat up here on the podcast. Oh, hello. So,
where's your cat, Blair?
Well, I'm not at home. I'm at Gumbo. So I'm sitting in Gumbo's phone booth. And that's why we've got the fancy Kids at Karendow Zoom backgrounds. So, Red, why don't you start by telling everyone about yourself just real quick before we get into our exciting topic of today.
Sure. So I'm a professional game developer. Been doing this for about 21 years now. I've run technically 3 small studios. I've worked with numerous companies and brands throughout the years, shipped somewhere around 40 plus titles. And I'm still around even with how fun the game industry can be.
You're getting really good at your elevator pitch, I'll say that. So we'll get right into it. Last time we had you on, we talked about porn games a little bit, not much, and I kind of wanted to come back and revisit this. So it is such a fascinating thing that exists, I would say. I mean, I guess it's not surprising that such a thing does exist. It I find it fascinating, and I don't know why. And it probably makes me sound perverted, but that's fine.
Hey, have you ever played a porn game, Blair?
I have. There was these Atari games, like they were made just for an Atari emulator, and they're like two colors, and you were a naked dude running away from circumcision tools, and then at the end of the level, you had sex with a chick.
Dude, I can't tell if you're being serious right now.
I am dead serious.
That sounds like the porn games of the Atari.
Where the hell did you find this game?
Phil found it. I can't remember where we got it. I was like,
of course it was Phil.
Well, there's a whole company that used to make them for the Atari. So there's a bunch
really
of them back then, yeah.
Wow, that's hilarious and awesome, I guess.
Well, the content of them was a little antithesis of woke, but
well, it was Atari. It was a different era too. So
yeah, it was the 70s, what 80s.
It's hilarious. So, Red, I wanted to explore for a little while who makes these games and why. Why do porn games exist?
So let's start with the who, and the who is going to be basically everyone. Almost everyone I know in games has either wanted to work on porn games or has in some capacity. And that kind of goes into the why that, you know, we're all sexual beings. Everyone has the parts and the instinctual desire, and sure, asexual people may not, but for everybody else, that's there. And as a result, people like sex. But yeah, everyone enjoys it. And for the most part, even if they publicly say, oh no, that's bad, I don't enjoy that, they're also the kinky fuckers back in their bedroom with like a rack full of torture equipment.
Hey, that sounds like a good time, right? Okay, so here's what I don't get. So people want to make porn games. I assume that, well, do people just want to make porn too in general? Is there underlying desire there?
I found no. A lot of people don't want to actually make porn, but they like the idea of creating an interactive experience, especially people that just like making entertainment in general. They, again, in my experience, they like making different kinds of entertainment, and one of those is finding fun ways to make porn games, especially because so many porn games in the past, as you may have seen, are basically let's insert tab A into slot B and repeat that until the level's over, and that gets to be pretty damn boring. So people are always trying to find, you know, what's a fun way we can do porn games that's actually interesting. I just realized my shirt is like way up. I'm Italian, got to keep that low. But yeah, that's basically, again, this is my experience, but what I've seen.
So, okay, do you get embarrassed a little bit? So when I do all the, like, Kids of Karendow has some raunchy stuff in it a little bit, some dirty jokes, that kind of stuff. I am fine when I'm sitting on my computer at home, writing that, animating it, stringing it all together, whatever. But as soon as I get it in front of people at an expo and they experience it, I get extremely embarrassed. It's not that I'm ashamed of anything I've created, but the first time I see someone react to it, it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that or wrote that dirty joke or whatever. Do people who make porn games, do they feel shame?
Yeah, a lot of people do feel guilt over it, but in reality, in my opinion, they don't need to. It's nothing to really feel guilty about if you're making someone laugh. You're doing your job as an entertainer.
So what did you specifically do when you're working on Bonetown?
So in Bonetown, they actually brought me into the game after they had finished it. They needed a torque expert to work on the Xbox 360 controller implementation. So they gave me a free copy of the game, and I played through the entire thing in like 3 days. And I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. It's a little problematic at points in the, you know, woke sector. But aside from that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a game from the aughts. It's not terrible. It's literally what it says it is. It was the first porn game that was actually also a game, which, yeah, the entirety of Japan could argue that, but we'll get to that later. So they brought me in to do the Xbox 360 controller implementation, and then I also kind of pitched while I was there that from playing through the game, it could desperately use some tutorials. So I also worked with them to write a tutorial system, which they ended up not using. But it was pretty cool because it actually mimicked a lot of the tutorials of other games at the time, where it'd be like you'd get somewhere and a tutorial would happen based on events and things. So it was very integrated. It was nice.
So it's like
what's a torque expert? Is that another porn game?
Depends how you look at it. Torque was a game engine from the 2000s, the aughts, that was kind of the unity of the day, and it was what everybody used. And I was basically an expert in it, and did everything in C++ on the engine level. And they hired me to do some work at times. And they also had like their group, what they called, I forget what they call them. They're basically ambassadors, and they had like 80 of them around the world, and they made me one of them. So yeah, I was pretty much one of the torque experts in the world. Then cool. Unity happened.
And all the porn games now are probably made in Unity Unreal.
They actually are.
I'm not surprised. So last time you mentioned when we were talking about this, that the porn games had become more actual games and not just cheesy like Atari characters getting chased by circumcision tools. So what is that? I've never played a porn game in my life. So I should have done more research before this. I should have gone and played some. I did read some articles on them. So
I can recommend some to you.
Go for it.
But like right now?
Yeah, why not?
Sure. Well, I just moved into this apartment, so literally I'm sleeping on like the floor right now. So that's why it's all blurred. You can't see my fingers or anything. Anyway, I will admit some of the more recent ones I'm not as familiar with, but I know they've gotten only crazier these days. But I know there's the Dragon Knight series, I think it was called, which was mostly from the 90s. And there's actually, these are Japanese games. And I remember the one I played most was Dragon Knight 3. And Dragon Knight 3 in a lot of ways rivaled like some Final Fantasies in terms of its gameplay and depth. And it was a full JRPG, but there'd also just be times, you'd be balls deep in some hot anime girl. Aside from that, it was a really true to life JRPG.
Do you think we'll ever see these games on consoles?
Honestly, I think the day is coming. 10 years ago, if you'd asked me if Steam would have ever had porn games, I would have laughed and said, fuck no. And now we have porn games on Steam because Valve kind of took a step back and were like, oh, hold up. We're kind of, by blocking these, that's not good, especially because a lot of people have been discovering that when companies block adult entertainment, it's usually to hate on women or something around that, or to control women. It's a really deep topic that is hard for me to properly get into, but there's a lot of resources online. And yeah, basically the TLDR is that when a company is like, oh, we can't have porn, it's bad. It's to either hate on women or to be against sex workers.
Sounds like there might actually be a part 2 to this podcast then.
I've got to do some research then, because I don't have all the talking points for these. But when Valve kind of opened up their eyes, they're like, oh shit, we got to do better. Yeah, let's allow porn games. So they did. And now they did, that means also technically the Steam Deck does. Now we have a mobile game console. Also, I'd love a Steam Deck if anybody wants to gift me one.
So would I.
I still can't even get a dev kit. I've been trying since literally I put my request up a minute after the dev kit request went up. It says still in review. But regardless, that means we do now have a handheld game console, which the Steam Deck essentially is, that supports porn games. That's going to create a precedence. So I think over time we might see a change of things, especially as we get change in the generations, where the current generation of people generally our age, many of us sadly are still, oh no, porn is naughty, we can't do that. It would scare the cloud people. But a lot of people younger than us, they're like, fuck that, we don't believe in any of that bullshit, we're just here for the real world. And they're much more accepting of all this, much more accepting of sex workers, much more accepting of just who people are in general in many ways. So I think in the future, yes, we will see porn games on consoles. It just might be another 10 or 15 years or more.
That's really interesting. Now I'm going to get a little bit into who plays them and why we make them, but let's it's like the overlap between something like a porn game and then one of those dating sims, or several. There's tons of dating sims now that exist, and I feel like when we get into who plays them, I feel like, and I have no data to prove this, or just what I feel like is right. Women are probably more into the dating sims, and the guys are probably just more into the porn.
Yeah, that is somewhat true. Oh, a second, I think I'm gonna sneeze.
No
Trying to give you a
problem.
time gap.
They'll come back.
You sucked it back in.
Okay, time
Is that
gap.
another porn game?
What's that?
Is that another porn game? Suck it back in?
I'm sure it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, 3.
Well, now it's gonna exist now.
Yep. Yeah, maybe we'll make it. Okay, 3, 2.
We're not editing. Don't worry.
You're not editing.
I can
I hope
edit
you
this part
edit
if
the
you really
final
want me to.
thing. I'm trying to
yeah,
give you time gaps. I'm trying to be snorting snot here.
We can't hear you, so it's kind of funny, but we'll see. Anyway.
What's the question?
So I don't think I've asked it yet. So with is there going to be like kind of an evolution to the dating sims and porn games, or do those already exist and I just don't know about it?
I think they already exist.
So you're just going to go, you're going to meet someone, you're going to court them on a video game, and then you're going to go to Pound Town.
And not only that, but a lot of these games now support, and the term's escaping me, but they're basically, like mechanical fleshlights and things. So you can be playing these games, and the games actually have work with the SDK for these mechanical devices.
Isn't that just gonna like what VR porn's gonna?
Yeah, they're called peripherals. It'll just in the future, it'll just be like getting a keyboard.
Pretty much, yeah. So you'll just be sitting here working away, playing the porn game off to the side, and then here we go, it's business time.
So that'll bring the realism of the VR porn.
Indeed.
Well, we all have something to be excited for then.
We do indeed.
All right, so who plays these?
Everyone.
Everyone. So this is a huge market then.
It really is a huge market, and a lot of people who say they don't play them actually do. But it's going to be in America, in the Western world, not as much, I will say, because Japan makes like
all that hentai porn games
of porn games. And these are the ones especially that have, the stories, all the interactions, the JRPGs, the builders, everything. They're the ones that really do it right. So
is that why men in Japan aren't getting married anymore?
No, that's the whole grass boys movement, I think it's called.
I have no idea what that is.
That's a whole other topic.
Getting a lot of good material for this season.
See, now it's gonna bug me. I'm gonna have to look it up. I think it's like grass men, grass eaters, or herbivore men. It's not talked about so much. I guess I should say what it is. And essentially, they're mostly young men that have been raised in Japan and are Japanese and raised in Japan, as one tends to go over there. And they're kind of looking around at the, this is what you do. This is how we live. This is, you get this kind of job. You're going to get married. We're going to say who it is, all this stuff. And literally they just go, you know what? Fuck it. We don't care anymore. We're done. And they just go and live their own lives. And in a lot of ways, they don't really even care about getting jobs. They don't care about any kind of romance or dating. They just we just want to be alive and exist and not have to be at the whim of the entire culture.
So is it like a less toxic version of the incel culture we have in the West now?
From what I've seen of it, yeah, these aren't really toxic people at all. They're just people that have been, and I could be wrong, but from what I've seen and read about, these are people that literally have been told their entire lives, you fit in this scope right here, and you must do this.
Become a salary man in Japan and just do that for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
I thought Japan's changing a little bit on that front.
It's all changing. It's going to be a different world here. Motorcycle in like 20 years.
That's really interesting. Japan is getting more and more Western, and Russia's invading the Ukraine. Who knows what the world will be like in 20 years?
Yeah, might not even be here.
I'd like to think that we will. I'd like to not be dead.
Hopefully, yeah, I hate to do these, have to do these podcast interviews, over a couple of rocks.
Yeah, well, if we're all dead, or if the society is gone, civilization's gone, I don't think podcasts would exist anymore.
I mean,
The podcast just went really dark.
No, yeah, we did go pretty dark. Whoopsie.
Let's talk about porn again.
Yeah, let's go back to the porn.
Porn, yes.
That's what the internet's for. So is this bigger than AAA?
It could be, but it isn't. Which is, there's so many places to go from that. I mean, it could be, but it isn't, and a lot of that is because there's still this cultural thing where people think, oh, porn is bad, and there's a lot of people that still go out there, and I keep seeing the argument of, porn is anti-woman and everything, but then I notice that the same people making these arguments tend to be insane and things like that. And then you talk to the actual sex workers, actual female sex workers, they're like, yeah, this is all about women being in control, so your argument kind of holds no water.
When I listen to people who talk about women or everyone who does sex work, whether it be porn or prostitution or whatever, it always puzzles me because they are always speaking on behalf of the people who are doing it, saying that they don't like doing this, it's terrible, it's abusive. But it's never, and often when I hear interviews with people who actually do it, they all love it, and some of them don't, but obviously
That's true of anything,
it's not going to be, it's not going to be true of everything,
and
we'll probably
definitely
get so hated on this podcast, but that's great. We're going to say something problematic, I'm sure. Oh, nice. Well, it's a good way to premiere our second season then. So how much of this overlaps then with mainstream or indie gaming? Like, do we see are there mainstream companies like, say, EA, who have a porn subdivision that nobody knows about that are making these games?
Not that I have seen. No, they try and keep it. They won't go anywhere near that. The companies that do it are, well, I say that, but then I remember some of the more risque dating games that have been done. Like on the 3DS, there's one when you actually had to touch women with a stylus, and that was by one of the big companies. I don't remember which one.
Oh, you had to touch them in their places, I assume.
I think so. 3DS touch girl stylus game.
So what happens when you poke them in the eye?
If you ever want to feel up girls using the 3DS, here's your chance. What is the name of this game?
That's the pitch?
No, I'm looking at the Oh god, this is a totally different game. This is an RPG called Ages of Amazons by Arc System Works, and they'll get the chance to use Factor Liberation Mode, which involves rubbing scantily clad rival girls after you've defeated them using the 3DS touchscreen. So that's not even the game I'm thinking of, but hey, look, Arc did one.
Huh. How do these guys not get canceled? Because I imagine a lot of people would find that offensive.
Well, first, I'm reading mynintendonews.com, so I'm not just stealing people's content. I don't think they get canceled because there's no popular reason to cancel them. A lot of people who do get canceled, there's a popular reason to do so.
I guess that makes sense, yeah. So there is some, I guess you call it softcore porn, that's already kind of broached a little bit in the AAA arena.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that would in a way be one, because I know it's not going to be hardcore on 3DS. But even the Switch, has a bunch of softcore porn games and stuff.
Well, that's all the romancing, not the romancing saga. Sorry, that's definitely not porn, but the dating sims where they're just basically graphic novels, and there's very endowed women who tend to appear on all the title cards for those games.
Yeah, and I've never wanted to spend the 35 cents or whatever to spend the time playing one of those, because they look kind of trash too.
There's so many on the Switch. I see them every month when there's new releases. There's 3 of them or 4 of them that are out. It's it's crazy.
But you know what I would like to see? I might be changing the topic here for a second. So let's finish what you
Go
wanted to
for
say,
it.
and then I'm
No,
good.
go for it.
So let's go back to Steam for a second. And I'm actually going to open my Steam here because I have a bunch of these games bookmarked. There have been a lot of really great indies. There's actually a strong and growing indie scene in making like really, really solid porn games. And one of the Discord groups I'm in, they're always sharing them. And we're always talking about them. And these are damn solid games. Trying to see the one we were recently talking about. Well, there's actually a music game called Spunk Stock. And it's literally not even joking, it is a DDR style music game with fucking. So there's that one, but the one I really wanted to share here because it is fantastic, and I'd probably recommend tagging them maybe in this podcast afterwards. Let me find it. Is this it?
I think people are going to get the wrong idea what kind of game Kids of Karendow is going to be, but that's fine.
It's very possible.
So Gary, should we drop some more naked pixel people for Karendow that are gonna bone?
So you don't want to do a full-on sex scene, do you?
No. I do know if we make Kids of Karendow a porn game, we cross into a different arena, and I don't think I want to do that.
Especially with our kids. I mean, you might want to call it adults of Karendow.
Yes.
The subset.
But then we lose the alliteration.
Mm-hmm. So I just sent you a link to one of the game I'm really thinking of. And just because, I mean, there's a lot of games like this we could talk about, but I want to talk about this one right now because it's a good example of these kind of games. It's called Flipwitch Forbidden Sex Hex. And it is a really well done Metroidvania style game with like full RPG and JRPG stuff. And a lot of the gameplay is actually involves fucking. And I've seen games like this where you actually like fuck characters to take their powers and stuff. And if you click through the pictures here, which I'd say maybe don't do it on the stream, because there's definitely some, that dude's getting a blowjob right there by an elf, or a goblin. It's a goblin blowy. But yeah, this fucking looks like a Metroidvania, like a Castlevania game from the Super Nintendo days or something, probably even more detailed.
I'm looking at an animated GIF right now. There's a lot of bouncing going on.
Yeah, I just see the bouncy boobs on the animated GIF.
Yeah,
I haven't dug into I haven't gone to the store page yet.
It's a bit hard to get past that one, so.
Yeah,
it is a bit harder.
But yeah,
sorry, I have to do my one-liners.
Bada boom.
But yeah, this is a game that I honestly really want to get because it looks like it has a lot of content and it's a sex game, which is great, but it's way more than just a sex game. It's got like actual solid combat and some other stuff in there and story and sex scenes. And it's a great example, I think, of what is being worked on out there. Let me share their Twitch page or just a Twitter page with you also in case you want to link to them. So we're talking about them. But on their Twitter, they also usually have GIFs and things.
Is their Twitter account safe for work?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I didn't think it would be.
I guess you really can't share it then. I mean like here's a demon girl flying up and down. As she flies up, the boobs go down.
And... I wonder if we'll get flagged by YouTube for inappropriate content, but we haven't shown anything, so we're probably okay. We're just talking about it.
Yeah, we're just talking. From what I've seen, talking doesn't get you in too much trouble.
We haven't said any problematic ideas yet.
Not yet.
No wrong speak.
I have a feeling as the seasons go on, Blair, that we might.
Oh my God! Excuse me.
More
bless you.
Risque topics.
Oh my God! It's a cat girl, and she's like on all fours, and she like kind of bounces up and down. And her boobs scrape against the ground every time she does, and it's so cat-like.
So I gotta wonder who animates this stuff. Like, this goes back to the shame thing I brought up earlier. I mean, they obviously want to do good work. But do they then blush after they see anyone interact with their work? Are they like, I made a naked
it's-
kitty booby animation.
No, I mean it's what they enjoy doing. It's their passion. They enjoy showing for entertainment. So when people see it, they tend to really like it. You know, it's their because people are enjoying the entertainment they've created.
So do we have sales numbers on like how much some of these games sell? I'm getting really intrigued here. Is this a missed opportunity potentially?
I mean, that's why I've always wanted to start a porn game company. But I don't think the sales are like super massive, but a lot of that is because they're not allowed to get the marketing that other games would get. Because most places just literally won't have it.
Wouldn't advertise, yeah.
Yeah, because they're gonna be like, oh, think about the children, which
All right, man. We are going along here. So I wanted to share some research that I did.
Sure.
I'm going to share my screen in just a
Oh
second.
God, did you find my nudes? They're not that hard to find.
No, I am not sharing any nudes. And I better not share the Steam page either. So I'm going to close that first.
You can send it to me over Discord.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. All right. So here's some research that I did. People who watch porn and people who play video games.
That looks accurate.
Yeah, I figured. So it's a great audience to go for when you're making games, is people who watch porn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I had to be stupid. That's the only thing I wanted to share. I thought it'd be funny.
I mean, that's good research. Though.
Is that a Venn diagram or just a big yellow dot?
It's both.
So, they always show those Venn diagrams of Dungeons and Dragons players. It's like Dungeons and Dragons players and people who like kinky fucking.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe a little bit
You have
true.
to look it up now, Blair.
Look into your heart.
Well, I play Dungeons and Dragons,
maybe in the
so
pants.
I don't want to admit much publicly here, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut because I don't want to edit this thing anymore.
You do you.
But you, Gary,
too.
play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah,
Yes.
I played at your house actually.
That just makes things sound even worse.
I know. I did that on purpose.
Okay, so let's go down another aspect of this because Gary sort of reminded me of this. How much representation is there of like for market targeted to like non-straight male audience? Like, are there porn games actually made for women? And what about LGBT themes?
From what I have personally seen, it's not. They do exist, but it's not as widespread. But there definitely are games out there, and from what I have seen, a lot of games are also trying to give options for all people. Also, it really depends the game, but I'd say on the whole, they're primarily made for white, straight, cis men.
So it's just full of naked white women or cats with boobs.
Or apparently also green goblins. Green goblins sucking on noblins.
I'm gonna okay, I might edit this out, but I've watched weird cartoon porn before with goblins in it, and that was just weird. But I guess it's a thing.
You didn't do this on the internet, did you, Blair? Or was this on some random VHS tape at your house?
This is on Pornhub.
Oh no, the NSA knows.
Yeah, probably. Or they're based out of Montreal, I think. Another fun fact: Pornhub has blocked Russia now because of the Ukrainian invasion.
Before I hear everybody's blocking Russia, this is basically the dumbest fucking thing Putin could have ever done in his life.
Oh, probably. We'll see if he survives this. He probably won't.
Probably won't. My total guess on what's going to happen there's going to be a coup in Russia that's going to take over. There's more and more people every day, incredibly brave people in Russia that are standing up and holding demonstrations despite being, literally beaten, imprisoned, and killed. But more people are coming up every day, and I would have every expectation that they're all going to eventually come together and be like, this is too much, and stage a coup against Putin. And not exactly a bad idea. I mean, he's kind of a terrorist now.
So,
Oh,
to get
kind of.
back on
Literally
topic,
is.
how many porn games are made in Russia?
I'm gonna go with none.
You don't think so? I mean, there's a lot of game development in Russia, a lot of
There,
bootleg
okay,
stuff
there
too.
realistically, there's probably none legally because I think there are laws against, I know there's at least laws against LGBTQA people, sadly, which is gross that those laws exist. But I think there's also laws against a lot of pornography. So if there is porn over there, it's probably usually made by indies and people kind of doing it secretly on the side.
Oh, they could end up in the gulag,
Maybe
locked away in Siberia.
maybe in the people's free country of Russia that we'll have in a couple of years. Be a little more accepted.
Who knows? Who knows how that's going to go?
Yeah.
Nowhere good written immediate term. All right,
Yeah.
Gary, why don't you share a porn experience that you've had with video games?
I just see ads for them all the time.
You seriously see ads for porn games?
Yeah, all the time. Well, you know, like my dad goes on these like weird sites to like watch like TV shows and stuff, and they're absolutely horrible for like ads and like viruses and stuff. I gotta clean out his computer every year. Because like, yeah, like I was just back there, you know, during Christmas, and he's like, "Hey, Gary, how do I get rid of this ad?" So I keep clicking on the X goes away for a little bit, and it just pops back up, and it's like an ad for some random porn game.
And not just porn, just an actual porn game.
Well,
that's too
yeah,
bad. It's still getting advertised.
I think it's a game. It looks like a game. It's not an ad for porn because it was like a you know, like 3D model or whatever.
I've seen those. Those are just shitty freemium games. And there's no actual porn in them at all. It's a total lie. Every time I see those ads, I usually report them for false content. Like, if you're gonna show me a porn game, show me a fucking porn game, or I'm not gonna believe you.
Yeah, so that begs the question. So you're saying that these are not actual real games that they're made. They're just like an advertisement for clickbait.
No, they're real games, but they're not for what they say, you know, because they'll be like, oh, you can fuck all the princesses in the land. Then we get in there, the whole game is literally just some crappy freemium strategy kingdom builder game. When I say strategy, these games have no strategy. They're usually, here, spend money so you can have a farm.
It's
wow,
like those
I spent money.
Shitty ads you got on Instagram now or whatever of the game that actually looks pretty cool, but as soon as you download it, it's entirely different or not even what it was advertised. It's like, why do this? You're not going to get people to keep playing this game.
Yeah.
All right. So time for another confession here. So many years ago, I streamed on Twitch Escape from Pleasure Planet, which it's not a porn game, but it is a very it's very, very gay. It's incredibly gay, and the virtually only men are in that game, and are all scantily dressed, and certain aspects of their bodies are definitely emphasized over, you know, to an unrealistic level.
So which parts
it was a terrible game. It was terrible. You can get it on Steam if you want, but it was absolutely terrible. It was like a point-and-click adventure game, and just the dialogue was as cheesy as fuck, and it was probably like what's that movie again? Rocky Horror Picture Show, in terms of how tacky it is. I've never gone back and played it again though. So we streamed it for like an hour, and it's like I couldn't play it any longer. It's just so bad.
That's a good confession.
Yeah, well,
Terrible game.
Did you play it?
Never even heard of that one, but you know, that does kind of bring up the point that when I say that like everybody makes porn games, the vast majority of these aren't even for sale. They're just like freemium things that people put up for a little just fun experience. Like what Newgrounds used to have, or might still have. I haven't been to Newgrounds in 20 years.
I'm not even sure what Newgrounds is.
Oh wow. Well, I'm sure all you kids watching this know what Newgrounds is. And believe me,
all these kids are going to be watching this. That's
all the kids that are like my age.
Good. Oh yeah. Okay.
10 million
adult
years
kids.
old.
Just like the characters in Kids of Karendow, adult kids.
Newgrounds was a site, and might still be a site, I don't think it's anymore, primarily Flash games made by anybody who wanted to submit them. So there's lots of trash up there, but it was basically like YouTube in a lot of ways, where you then had your like really, really good titles. And there's some modern game companies that actually started there, like the Behemoth. Their stuff all came from there. And, you know, Castle Crashers was made by the people who actually ran the site, I think. And it was a big game where people even worked together from the site. So, but there's also a lot of porn games up there, and a lot of them were terrible.
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of trash, a lot of shovelware out there. But I guess it sounds like the renaissance in this industry is coming out of Japan.
Yes.
And it'll probably take a little while for the West to pick it up. It was like when JRPGs took forever for them to become popular in the West, because there's so many that never made it over here, which happens to be my favorite genre. So when I was a kid, there was a dry spell of very few of them, and Super Nintendo seemed to have gotten them all.
I'm definitely glad that I'm working on a JRPG for you then.
Oh, you are? Ah.
Well, you know, something about potato cats.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We can talk about it in another podcast. One day when I actually have a demo in 8,000 years.
We still have our bet from the last podcast, by the way, about who will finish our game first.
Yeah. So just so you know, I really like micheladas. So, you know, a bucket of those would be great.
Wait, so you still think you're gonna get your game done first? Okay.
What's on the line for you, Blair?
It's beer.
Remind the audience.
We buy the other person beer.
Michelada is just beer with like hot sauce.
Yep.
I mean, not really. That kind of sounds a little insulting. It's beer with spices and sometimes some clamato and other.
It's usually
things.
like a Bloody Mary mix and beer.
It's like a better Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
So
like
it's still
the vodka?
beer. Just like $6 more.
Well, I'll come out there and I'll buy you some beer.
Cool. I'll invite you to the launch party because I still want to do a launch party / cat adoption event.
Oh, that's pretty awesome, actually.
Which will be terrible because any cats who don't get adopted, I'm going to be like, I have to adopt them all.
So you're going to become a crazy cat man.
I already am.
How many cats do you have?
Though. So we had 3 cats sadly die over the past couple years. So
oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Anyway, porn games.
Yeah, back to porn. Gary, would you ever want to animate a male porn 3D model?
You want me to animate a male?
I was wondering how you're going to react. That's what I'm asking.
How much am I getting paid to do this?
Oh no, you're doing it for free, just like everything else. What about some porn game music? You gonna, you know?
Oh, I can definitely do.
Well, Brickle's Bounty was basically like porn game music.
No, not really. I think I would probably take a different approach to porn music these days, other than the kind of classy funk style that they had back in the 70s.
All right, now I'm
come
curious.
a long way since then, that's for sure.
I feel like we're turning Kids of Karendow into a porn game after this podcast.
You're gonna have to. It's just the law.
Yep. I'm just so curious now.
Well, we can
do it as like a side game.
Kids of the adult version of Karendow.
Adults
of Karendow.
Well, you know how in the original game we had a bunch of mini games.
Well, we can't. I'd rather not put any porn in this game. Although I still haven't coded it yet, but there is a part of the game when Elmo runs around naked, but there is a censorship bar covering his bits. But I was gonna put a code in there that you could remove it because he's actually drawn entirely naked. I drew him myself, and but there's nothing sexual about it. His clothes were stolen by someone.
That's funny. You should just make it so like the censor bar just lags slightly behind when you put the code in.
or maybe the more you walk in one direction, the more the censorship bar moves away from it. It's like you're running away from the bar.
And eventually he realizes it's gone and like freaks out and runs back to it.
That's a lot of work just for one little thing.
But it would be funny.
Yeah, it would be. That's a nice to have. Can't let the scope of the game increase too much.
Why? Games never increase in scope. Why would you bring that up?
Well, we already got the character in the game with assless chaps too. And he does have sex with Telly, but we don't show that.
I mean, you could though.
Yeah, but no, then it'd be a porn game, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
So
Kids
we
of
got a
Karen
lot of suggestive elements. There's
are.
adult themes in the game already, just no adult nudity.
Well, there's sex scenes in AAA games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, God of War, he was with 2 women at one point in the first one.
I never played God of War. There's so many AAA titles I haven't played.
Yeah, I think Dragon Age had sex scenes, sort of, and Witcher.
I've been playing Cyberpunk lately, which I actually really enjoy, and that's got sex scenes. I've gone through 2 sex scenes so far.
What was it just fade to black or something, or
No, they're like they're not like showing full penetration or anything, but a lot of it you're seeing from like your perspective, sometimes like a side perspective of like, I'm playing a male character currently, so your partner straddling you and stuff, but it's pretty well done, honestly, with Cyberpunk in general, though. I want to play through it a second time.
and they're not naked, or are they like?
Oh, they're fully naked.
They show
in
it.
fact, yeah. In character creation, you actually get to even like pick your genital size and stuff. At least if you play a guy, you can pick small, medium, or large.
Anaconda. Is there an anaconda option?
And I do want to actually play through. I haven't had a game like this I want to play through a second time in a long time, but I do want to play through it a second time as a female corpo character, female corporate character, just to get a whole different experience. I know in doing that, I'm going to have all sex scenes. I mean, still with some girls, but mostly guys. I'm like, oh, that'll be a whole different experience.
Gonna be seeing the dong. Wait, so that's in Cyberpunk, you said?
Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, that's a mainstream like AAA title. It
is. No, we're not showing. These are, I guess, what you would call tasteful sex scenes. It's not like some girl just getting fucking railed and like speaking tongues or anything. It's more like, here's a movement in the flash and a movement in the flash and oh, ecstasy. It's not like real life, where there's lots of screaming and bedwetting.
Bedwetting.
If you're
I don't know what kind of stuff you're into, but gotta get you some rubber sheets, right?
I have waterproof sheets, and so do most of my partners.
All right. Do you still have a sex dungeon?
I've never really had a sex dungeon.
Okay.
Toy bag.
Wait, it was one of your friends that did. Never mind.
I knew somebody who did, but they weren't really the best of people. So,
that's too bad. Man, this podcast went somewhere crazy.
No, I do know 2 dungeons here in Denver.
So
I can always take some partners to one if I ever really wanted to tie people up and do weird shit or fun shit.
Is it like someone's house, or is it a hotel, or like a bathhouse?
No, they're actual businesses.
Fascinating. Well, that went off topic again, but I guess
Sounds like another podcast. We should.
Yeah. We're
that could be the Kids of Karendow After Dark podcast.
Yeah, this is a great way to kick off a second season of the podcast. This will hopefully get us a lot of listens.
Mm-hmm. So now everybody's gonna be like, "Where's Dim Porn Talks?" We had that in the first one. Oh, look, there's my bed again. Speaking of porn.
So you're gonna be making a porn after this, are you?
I mean, I'd love to make porn. Like I said,
there we go. So you've made porn games, and you just said you want to make porn. So there is overlap.
So, okay, well, let me explain. I mean, I've always wanted to actually start a porn game company, and I wouldn't mind acting in porn either. I mean, I look at the mirror and I just have full dysmorphia and think I'm the fattest person, ugliest person there is. But I've heard a lot of other people say otherwise. I'm like, okay, but I mean, I wouldn't exactly think I'd be starring, but I'd be totally cool doing porn too. It doesn't faze me, and it's also a paycheck, maybe a lay check. Think about it. But I mean, okay, cool. I get to have sex and get paid for it, to just do that and act it up for a 6-hour session. Because I've read how these work, and it's not just, there's a lot to it. It's not just, that's why I say most guys can't do it. But I don't know. I think I might actually be able to, based on my own personal experiences, and I wouldn't mind doing it. Just, I'm also 42, and in Japan, I might be able to, because Japan only has, I think it's 72 male porn workers to over 13,000 female workers, something like that. So they're very, very busy. I
Wow.
forget the exact numbers, but it is something like that. Is that 3,000 or 13,000 women? But either way, it is in the 70s of male porn workers. So I always go, I do love Japan.
You know an awful lot about this.
It's my passion.
So, now do you think part of the appeal to a porn game, if you were an adult entertainer, wouldn't it just be easier to make porn games so you don't have to do all the effort well, they probably have fun fucking too, but because if you're doing it for 6 hours and if you're a guy, you got to take a bunch of drugs, you know, to keep it up.
Yeah.
I've heard that they do, and that the long term can cause like permanent damage to your wang. Carrie, what do you know about this?
I know nothing about this. You know, I have heard of such things where, yes, they have to take drugs. Maybe not all of them, but probably, you know, the ones that have been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably harder to get excited for it after a while because you've done everything. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
That is true, though, to an extent, because even in just porn video games, you first see some of this stuff and you're like, oh yeah, it's pretty hot. But then, you know, like the 6th week of work on something like Bonetown, you're seeing another sex scene. You're like, okay, cool, and you're kind of waiting for the sex scene to finish while watching YouTube over here. It's not really spank material anymore. Now
You're bored of it. That's why we're probably seeing all of those games now, like even with that one you were showing us earlier, they rely on furry porn basically. It's like you're gonna be like a minotaur boning a chick or something, anthropomorphized minotaur or something weird like that. I bet you that's probably in some porn game.
Or you're banging a minotaur.
What's that?
Or you're banging a minotaur.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of bestiality.
Or let's be honest, it'll be a minute whore.
I'm in a whore. Ha ha ha. Good one.
You get one a day. That's it. I've used it up for this podcast.
I can't believe we've talked about all this shit. We went a little bit off the rails. That's great.
Whatever, man. Season 2 is always going to be about just kind of going wherever the conversation takes us.
Yeah. Oh man,
you can always have me back.
Oh, we will. We'll definitely have you back. Your podcasts are always the most listened to ones, just because of the porn hashtag. I know we're running out of time, so in the last few minutes here, the floor is yours. Talk about what you're working on, how you want to promote yourself, whatever.
Well, because it's a porn podcast, probably want to keep a lot of that separate from this.
Fair.
But,
okay.
I will say, go ahead and follow me on Twitter to see what I'm working on. It's Red Vonix, REDVONIX. Same on Instagram, same on Facebook, but really Twitter's the place to follow along and interact with me if you're interested in continuing any of these discussions.
All right, Red. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time, and I'll definitely have you back.
Sounds good. Been great talk with all of you, and been great talking with all of you out there in cyberspace.